so this gives us example number 1 from Jehoshaphat in 2 Chronicles 19, verse 8. Now let's go on to another example, and let's take a look at this whole idea of the jurisprudence system in Israel, which is not based on rabbinic Talmudic authority. It's not based on a Sanhedrin. It's based on the priesthood, the legitimate priesthood coming down through the line of Tzadok, or the Zadokites. That's what we're looking at.
So when we make that statement, we're not being anti-Jewish because the Zadok priests were Jewish.
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
So we're just saying, what Jewish group should we see, biblically speaking, had the proper authority? Which Jewish group?
So this is really all about authority. It's really what it's coming down
amongst
to.
the Jewish groups.
Right, because the Zadokite priests, they didn't make any of this stuff up. They were given this responsibility to be the stewards of this information, of all of the details that we're going to be talking about. And we need to respect that, I think.
And we're going to get into that details of how they were good stewards later on.
Chronicles 29:22, Zadok was the priest when Solomon became king.
Thus, the Zadok priests were the high priests in the days of King Jehoshaphat.
And we know, even in the Jewish Encyclopedia, if you want to go back and have a look at that, the Jewish Encyclopedia, it even attests to the fact that all the way through the whole period of hundreds and hundreds of years, that the Zadokite priests were functioning in the temple with their authority all the way until the time, essentially, of about the Maccabees, or the Hashmonaim. So this is a long time.
The point is, in 2 Chronicles chapter 19, verse 8, when King Jehoshaphat appoints the priests for controversy, he's appointing the Zadok priests in matters of the controversy. So what King Jehoshaphat did is what the Almighty is stating as well in Ezekiel chapter 44, verse 24. And we've talked about this extensively, but this is example number 2, because Ezekiel chapter 44, verse 24, when it says in controversy, is referring back to Deuteronomy chapter 17, verses 8 and 9.
So it's all of these disputes that are taking place, and we're saying that the disputes are linked to the biggest, the largest, massive problem that was definitely really creating some huge storms, theological storms, in the days leading up to Yeshua, which was the calendar issue. That was a huge issue. It was no minor thing. The calendar issue. What could we liken that to our own generation today?
To our own generation today is the issue of whether you agree or disagree
baptism
with the law. No, whether the law was nailed to the cross. So that's a widely accepted doctrine today. By most of the church system, the church denominations today, that if you would go and say that we're supposed to follow the Torah today, Now, that's going to create a big dispute about how you express your faith. So in the same way that this would create a big dispute, in that day, the central dispute of authority and the proper way you express your faith is whether you're going to accept the authority of the Pharisees, the rabbis and the Sanhedrin, or you're going to accept the authority of the Zadok priests, who were functioning, and the faithful Zadok priests were over the Qumran community. Now we're going to look at this New Testament example in Acts chapter 15. So there is a Torah dispute, because in Acts chapter 15, verse 2, it says, Paul and Barnabas had no small dissension in dispute with them. So who is he in dispute with? He was in dispute with the Pharisees who believed in Acts chapter 15 and verse 5. So this is a dispute between Pharisees that believed and Paul and Barnabas, who were believers in Yeshua. And so they have a Torah dispute. And what does it say in Deuteronomy chapter 17, verse 8? When there's a Torah dispute, you're supposed to go to the place where the Lord your God chooses. So where's that? That's Jerusalem. So when they have this Torah dispute in Acts 15, where did they go to settle the issue? It says they went to Jerusalem. And was this decision in Acts chapter 15 made by the rabbis and the Sanhedrin?
No.
Well, no, they went to the apostles and the elders, the leadership. What leadership? The leadership that believed that Yeshua was the Messiah, that was in Jerusalem. And that leadership was headed by James. And so now we have a Torah dispute. They're going to Jerusalem. They're not going to the rabbis and the Sanhedrin. They're going to the recognized authority, who is James. And so we see in Acts chapter 15, verse 13, that it's James that's making the judgment here. And James is not going to have the doctrine of oral Torah. So who's acting as the judge in Acts chapter 15? It's James. So we see here that Acts chapter 15 is following the protocol of Deuteronomy chapter 17, verses 8 and 9. So the point that we're highlighting here is we're asking the question, given that the Orthodox Judaism claims their Torah authority is Deuteronomy 17, 8 through 11, is that being affirmed either in the Tanakh itself, which we saw the two examples it wasn't, and is it being affirmed in the New Testament in Acts 15? And it's not. So the significance of this is, if the reason why we follow the biblical festivals is because we think that the rabbis or the Sanhedrin have the authority regarding when we should celebrate the festivals, if we think that's the reason why we're following and doing what they're doing, well, they aren't, they don't have that authority, as we're just looking in the Tanakh and the New Testament from the interpretation of Deuteronomy 17, 8, and 9. So therefore, why would we be then following the festivals according to the mandates of the rabbis and the Sanhedrin, rather than the authority that God is given us in Scripture, and that is the authority of the high priesthood through the Zadok priest?